Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We are here at the NEC and we have finally made it to Ducati and
their Streetfighter V4.
I'll cuddle the bike.
Oh. Cuddling the bike. Are we rolling?
Oh, okay.
Right, okay. Well, do you know what? I think out of the mainstream hyper nakeds, right, and we're going to shift just slightly to the side the Brutale 1000RR from MV, because I just don't think that's mainstream enough.
I find that really hard to do, but all right.
Okay, but for all of the hyper nakeds that are coming out into 2020, and for me this year, or going into 2020, is kind of the year of the hyper naked. You know, what have we got? We've got 1290.
You're touching that guy's boob, by the way.
Sorry.
It's feeding up a mannequin, brilliant.
So we've got the 1290 Super Duke R. We've got the ZH2, which, to be honest, I look at that bike and I don't know whether to ride it or turn up with my harpoon.
It's an interesting motorcycle, isn't it?
It is, right. So anyway, you've got, what else have you got?
Well, I mean, obviously KTM's new Super Duke is available. The interesting thing is what the industry is saying
so
constitutes a hyper naked, right?
Yeah. So my point was, this is probably the best looking one. And so far, I think people agree, because they're all sold out basically. So all of the deposits are taken for both the standard Streetfighter V4 and the V4S.
Yeah.
So if you want one, you're gonna have to wait till July, basically.
And that is not just Hyperbole. One of the dealers that we have a partnership with in the Southwest, not naming any names, I was speaking to their dealer principal, and they've taken over 20 deposits.
Really?
And for your average UK dealer, that is their full allocation of V4 Street Fighters. You can't. There's only so many bikes that Italy or give to each individual dealer, and that's it. You're done. But come the back end of 2020, there will be more bikes available. And yet, I mean, I think the kind of the look of the bike is very subjective in terms of whether you like. But what I would say is, in the flesh, it is way more impressive than what you see when you look at images of the bike. I mean, the features on this thing are.
Well, it's jam-packed, isn't it?
It's outrageous, isn't it?
208 horsepower. I still can't wrap my head around that for a naked bike. I mean, you know, I've rode quite a lot of nakeds this year, and by the time you get over a ton, you're like, you're blowing off of it, and this thing the same. You know, it's going to be 208 horsepower. It's bonkers.
It's ballistic, isn't it? It's ballistic. And I know we were talking about this before when we published our MV video, and you basically said it's too much power, and there is an argument to say that it's too much power. I think obviously, you know, they've obviously worked quite hard with the aerodynamics. The jury's out on the winglets, if I'm totally honest, as far as I'm concerned, but I would imagine that in terms of the way that the bike channels air past the rider, this will be quite efficient, and it'll need to be, right? Because otherwise you're going to end up headless by the time you come to the end of your journey.
That's right.
But I mean, of course, the other really interesting, and I know we kind of talk about the same things with performance bikes, but they are fundamentally important. Aside from the headline horsepower figure, which is ludicrous, and it makes nearly 100 foot-pounds of torque, is the weight.
Yeah.
And you know, we talked about the ZH2, and I feel like we're not necessarily the most complimentary about that bike, but the jury's out on that too. But that bike is 235, 240 kilos.
It's a heavy bike.
Fully fueled 200 kilos. That's
it's impressive.
Just, wow.
It's massively impressive.
When you pair it up with 208 horsepower, I mean, this thing is going to be astonishing, isn't it?
It is. And I know you said about the winglets, and I thought that initially. I thought, what the hell do they put winglets on? It's a bit overkill, isn't it? But there is actually technical reasons for that. So if you're mad enough to get up to the maximum speed of 168 mile an hour, this is going to put an additional 28 kilos of downforce on the bike.
I'm smiling. I'm wondering, the relevance of that is kind of questionable, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, it does do something. You're absolutely right.
I mean, you know, look, there's people obsessed with downforce, and they're like, oh, I just need to eat more.
All right, my love, I'm just going to nip out and test out my winglets. 170 mile an hour. Well,
there you go.
There you go.
Really technical. I think they've changed the engine, so this is the same engine lifted out of the V4.
Yeah, lifted out the Panigale.
Lifted out of the Panigale, but what they've done is they've changed the gearing on it, so it's shorter geared, it's less less set up for pure top speed.
Yeah.
They've shortened the gearing. So actually, what that means in the real world, and I think it's really going to translate to the kind of people that are going to own this and how they're going to ride it, is that at 60 mile an hour in 6th gear, you crack that throttle open, it's got 30% more torque available at top gear at 60 mile an hour than the Panigale V4.
Yeah.
This is going to be a stonker.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean that's one of the fundamental differences.
Ride it a lot lazier, basically.
Yeah, and you've just got all that roll-on torque, all that. So talk about 6th gear, but I bet you anything 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th,
It's going to be the same.
All you do is wind it, and it just absolutely fires you down the road. It will be storming.
Yes.
I guess we've got to talk a little bit about the kind of technical stuff. Obviously, there are 2 specs. You've got the standard V4 and then the bike that we're standing in front, the S. I think the main difference is probably the suspension. It's a fully electronic setup on this. You've got Showa forks. You do also get the Marchesini wheels on this. There are, I think, 1 or 2 other bits and pieces that change the 2 bikes. Pricing, it starts
17.5.
Just over 17.5, and the S is 9.
Just under 20, basically. 19,700 or something like that. But I think actually, considering like Ducati are the Ferrari of motorcycles. They look like Ferraris, in my opinion.
It's a big statement, but you're probably right.
That new V2, the Panigale V2, I know it's a different bike, but for me that is like the top of the tree. That they're not actually badly priced, really. When you take into account that to get you on a 1290 Super Duke R, you're going to be actually similar money compared to the Streetfighter V4. Looks I don't know. There's just something special. We've talked about Ducati being premium products. They are. There's no
there's a certain. I mean, dare I say, there's a kind of certain romance attached to the Italian brands, particularly Ducati, and now Ducati seem to have resolved sort of any major reliability issues. They all of a sudden over the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years have become ultra desirable, haven't they? And that is reflected in the price. But you're right. If you look at the competitor products, KTM's new Super Duke R with the tech pack is going to be 18 plus. It's certainly going to sit at least somewhere between the standard V4 and the S. So they are direct competitors. I think we need to come back briefly to the sort of hyper naked issue, though. What you directly compare this to will be really interesting next season, whether they're going to do this against the Super Duke. I mean, we haven't even talked about BMW. Their new S1000R, I think, is another 12 months away.
Yeah.
ZH2.
And you're probably going to have to chuck in Brutale 1000.
You are. I mean, although price point is very different, you can't ignore the fact that bike is available, and in terms of figures, is very, very similar to this. Headline figures are very similar, weights are very similar. Both Italian brands, both exotic, both fantastic looking products. I mean, it's a very exciting time if and
that's what you're into. It's really exciting time. And if you were looking for a hyper naked, you're like, God, which one do I choose?
Oh, it's just it's an embarrassment of riches, isn't it? And,
it is.
And as I say, hopefully,
it's a first world problem.
Yeah, isn't it? It's very much a first world problem. Oh, what do I choose? Yeah, but I mean, this has got to be right up there for anybody on the shortlist who wants to buy a very high performance naked bike. This has got to be, and in fairness, that's reflected in the order take, right? Everybody's sold out. It says an awful lot about the desirability of the product.
We haven't really talked about the specs. We've got Brembo brakes.
Yeah, Stylema
brakes again. Again, top of the tree. It's going to brake really well. Yeah. It's got Diablo. It's got
Rosso Corsas.
It's got Rosso Corsa too. So it's really sticky rubber. It's got a full suite of electronics. It's got the Ducati slide control as well, which is quite cool.
Effectively, everything that's on your Panigale gets lifted and put onto this and slightly adjusted and calibrated for a naked bike. But what you will also find with this is there will be guys who will, track monkeys, who will want to ride this on track, and it will perform.
Of course.
Essentially, what you do is you take the fairing off a Panigale, you put some flat bars on it, and that's it. That's the recipe. And hold on for dear life. So you know that technically it's got the whole thing. It's 5-inch TFT. I mean, this has got the heated grips. I mean, it's got multi and the adjustability, the tailoring aspect of the suite of electronics on this means again you can really, really fine tune it for what you want, which is. We're going to finish it. We're kind of rambling a bit, aren't we?
Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed that little video of the Streetfighter V4. beautiful bike. If you come into the NEC, you should definitely check it out, but just be aware the Ducati stand is absolutely mobbed from like morning through tonight, so you'll have to get here early and swing your leg over this basically. So look, please like, please comment, we'd love to hear what you think. Please subscribe to the channel and we'll see you next time.